Something inside of you feels different. You may not have the words yet, but you can feel it. A slight tension pulls you in. A peculiar sensation of loss combined with calm enthusiasm. Emotion emerges from nowhere. Dreams become more vivid. People react differently to you. Some are lured in, while others are uneasy. Perhaps you're wondering whether you're losing yourself. But what if you finally discovered yourself? This is more than just a shift in mood. It's neither a face nor a collapse. You might be experiencing a genuine spiritual awakening, an energy process that transforms you at your core, not in an abstract racial sense, but in a real biological, emotional, and energetic metamorphosis. And today, we're going to look at 5 very genuine symptoms of spiritual awakening that practically no one talks about, but that explain how you're experiencing. Let me begin. One of the first and oddest indicators of a real spiritual awakening is the sensation that time itself is unstable. They extend out and moments blend together. Sometimes an hour seems like a minute. Sometimes 5 minutes seems like an eternity. It's unsettling and genuine, because this isn't mental confusion. It's an intense time distortion. When your frequency begins to climb, you become less tied to the thick, linear patterns that much of civilization operates on. Your mind no longer processes life in the past, present, and future. Instead, you grow closer to energetic time, in which events are sensed in waves rather as clocks. You will notice that you no longer care about hurrying, being late, or fitting neatly into schedules, not because you are careless, but because your inner system is beginning to see time differently. You may have unexpected moments of calm in the midst of hectic days, or you may lose track of the day while remaining intensely present. At first, it seems like you're losing control, but it isn't. It is your energy, moving away from artificial creations and back toward presence. And now for the more in-depth section. Once your energy body has realigned, you will begin to sense when activity, rest, and flow are accessible without the need for external reminders. It's one of the most obvious symptoms that you're waking up when life stops moving just via powerless and energy. There's a pain that comes with genuine spiritual awakening, and it has no obvious source. You may be enjoying a regular day. Then, out of nowhere, a deep grief settles into your chest. It is not linked to a memory. It's not about any specific loss. It's simply so dense, silent, and unrelenting. You may even charge yourself for it. Why am I sitting? Nothing is wrong. But melancholy does not care about rationality. It lingers. This is exactly what is going on. You're missing your previous, energized self. Every part of you that has survived by dealing, hiding, pleasing, and acting. It's crumbling away. Not angrily, but in grief. Because while that previous self was terrible, it was familiar, and a part of your energy still yearns for the safety of the numbness. It is more than simply your thoughts letting go. Your body, auric field, and emotional memory are all shedding layers that no longer resonate. This pain is holy. The soul acknowledges what is dying before enjoying what is born. And if you accept it, don't correct it. Do not hurry it. Simply accept it. You'll notice that the grieving gradually gives way to a greater sense of delight. The delight of no longer having to be someone you aren't. So, if you've recently been unhappy for no apparent reason, don't panic. It is not depression. It's an act of mourning. And it's one of the most obvious signals that your soul is creating way for who you're becoming. Another unexpected sign of real spiritual awakening is a sudden heightened sensitivity to the environment around you. Sounds seem louder, bright lights seem harsher, crowded spaces feel heavier, and odors, textures, and subtle bodily sensations that you used to dismiss become difficult to ignore. At first, you may believe you are becoming delicate or too sensitive, But in reality, your perceptual filters are decreasing. In everyday life, the human system creates emotional, psychological, and even neurological barriers to defend itself against overload. You block out background noise and tune out emotional strain. In others, you become numb to the overstimulation of the contemporary world. However, when your vibration rises, these protective filters naturally begin to disintegrate. Not because you're weaker, but because you're approaching full spectrum consciousness. Your energy is growing, and one of the benefits is that you are feeling more alive. Not only are there gorgeous aspects, but also overpowering ones. You could be shocked by loud noises that have never affected you previously. You may cry at a music that once seemed regular. You may feel fatigued after doing errands, since the aggregate loudness resembles an explosive storm. This is not a regression. Your genuine sensory intelligence is regaining its function. And while it may feel overpowering at first, it is also teaching you a new skill, energetic discernment. You begin to understand what nourishes and drains your field. You realize when a room isn't conducive to your vibe. You can sense the difference between aligned connections and energetically loaded ones. Your sensitivity is not a sign of weakness. Rather, it indicates insight, and it clearly demonstrates that your spirit is desiring a life connected with truth rather than apathy. One of the most unsettling symptoms, yet one of the truest signals of a genuine spiritual awakening, is this. You're no longer sure who you are. You wake up one day and find that the things you used to like no longer interest you. The ambitions you've pursued for years seem empty. Even if nothing remarkable has occurred, the individuals you have surrounded yourself with feel distant. Sometimes your own reflection feels like someone you're just meeting. It's disturbing. It is lonely, and that is vital. Because waking does not imply becoming a better version of your former self. It is about destroying any identity based on survival, anticipation, and external acceptance. The confusion you're experiencing is due to ego, disorientation, and country. Your mind has lost track of which tale to believe. Are you the achiever, helper, rebel, artist, or caretaker? The response during waking is none of the above. Your roles do not define you. Your accomplishments do not define who you are. Your wounds do not define you. And without such designations, there's an emptiness that resembles a blank canvas, a terrible yet freeing area. Initially, your system will panic. What am I if I lose my job, connections, and accomplishments? But over time, something deeper develops. Essence. Essence does not haste. Essence does not perform. Essence exists. And when you begin to feel less like a part and more like a live, breathing presence, you know the awakening is real. It is in your soul. So, if you've recently felt that you're losing your identity, don't try to find it right now. Allow your true self to find you, beneath all the noise. Perhaps the most unexpected and misinterpreted indicator of a true spiritual awakening is when you gradually quit the compulsive urge to continuously mend yourself before striving towards some perfect restoration. Every wound, every defect, and the pursuit of self-improvement, as if it were a race, served a function for a while. It helped you develop. It helped you survive. It provided you structure. But suddenly things feels different. You begin to doubt the continual self-work. You start to question, what if I'm not broken? What if I don't have to recover indefinitely to be worthy? This is not complacency. This represents an awakening to your innate completeness. Because the reality is, much of the self-improvement industry is based on the belief that you are essentially missing, that you must love, that you must heal, and that peace is the result of unending work. But genuine spiritual awakening exposes a quieter, deeper truth. You're not projecting. You're not the problem. You're already in the process of unfolding. You begin to realize that some of your deepest wounds may not require treatment. They require integration. They require witnessing. They require compassion, not control. And you learn to view the parts of yourself that you used to despise or dread as precious wounds rather than errors. You could still conduct healing work. You could still grow. But the force that drives it varies. It is no longer frenzied. It is no longer desperate. It becomes devotional. It becomes about appreciating your unfolding rather than forcing your progress. This transformation in energy is not just internal, but also observable. You move differently. You breathe differently. Your presence becomes less stiff and more flowing when you stop striving to be enough. You're remembering who you already are. And that remembering, that softness, that homecoming is the genuine sign. You're not just having an awakening experience. You are becoming the awakening itself. If this symptom speaks to something deep inside you, something wordless, old, and genuine, you are not imagining it. You're changing. You're shifting. You're awakening at a level that most people barely scratch the surface of. It is not always glamorous. It's usually messy, lonely, perplexing, and raw. But it is genuine, and it is sacrosanct. You are not losing your mind. You're shedding layers that were never yours to carry. And behind all of the unraveling, there's a presence, clarity, and wholeness that has always existed. You are not becoming someone else. You have returned to who you were before the world informed you who you should be. And every symptom, hurt, loss, and unusual change you're feeling is evidence. You are not falling apart. You're finally waking up. One of the more subtle but significant signs of a real spiritual awakening is that you no longer feel motivated by the same ambitions that formerly fired you up. Not because you've gotten lazy or lost ambition, but because your internal compass has to be recalibrated before you wake up. You presumably lived in a perpetual state of striving, achieving this title by the time that approval reached that milestone. It gave you a sense of self. It provided a foundation for meaning. But today, those same objectives seem empty. The chase feels tiring and not accelerating. The honors you hoped for appear useless. The adulation you previously wanted no longer fills the need within you. And here's what's going on below all the uncertainty. Your spirit is recovering control of your course. You're no longer being guided by external standards. You are being attracted into alignment, resonance, and truth. It does not imply you have to stop producing. It doesn't imply you've given up on excellence. But the source of your movement changes. You no longer move because you want to become something. You move because it feels familiar within your body. Decisions are no longer driven by the fear of missing out. They stem from a sense of calm. And sure, this does not have to be rational or explainable at first. This transition may result in an identity crisis. You could wonder, if I don't want what I thought I wanted, who am I now? And that's the proper question, since waking silences the cacophony of conditioned ambition. It restores you to soul-deep yearning rather than eagerness. You may find yourself pursuing slower, calmer dreams. You may walk away from ladders you wish to climb. You could pick a life path that appears modest from the outside, but feels immeasurably greater on the inside. Even if the rest of the world doesn't grasp your change, you will sense your energy will no longer be wasted on meaningless activities. Obligations will no longer shape your creativity. Your spirit will stop begging for a life that reflects who you are pretending to be. In that quiet, you will discover something precious. The ability to choose without having to prove that is not giving up on life. That is beginning to live it from the inside out. And one of the most obvious symptoms of your waking is in your face. Before you go, ensure that it is the actual item. What comes next is more deeper, since once you awaken, you will encounter hidden powers. The stillness begins to reshape your aura without you noticing it. You cannot describe if you sensed a shift. You must investigate what is taking place beneath the surface. Subscribe today and go to the next tier.